So India has a huge backlog to catch up on, because over several decades we have seen I would say the degeneration of the great public institutions, the famous universities of the 1950s and 60s. We've seen the slide in terms of educational standards at primary and secondary level. Now, in some ways, you could say this has bottomed out. Over the last 15 years, under the Sarva Shiksha Abhiyan, a lot of infrastructure has been built for primary education. And recently, over the last several years, a great deal of thrust has been given to skill development. Now, these are necessary, but these were vastly delayed for many years, some would say many decades. And this comes at a time when we missed some earlier windows of opportunity, where countries like China and other Southeast Asian countries developed much faster than us. And in today's context, because of automation, because of machine learning, jobs are under threat all over the world, and India is no exception. So we are in this situation where we have a lot of ground to make up, and there are fresh, major new challenges. So initiatives on skill development, initiatives on restructuring education need to be scaled up dramatically from the already energetic levels with which they are being pushed. This issue about the good and bad impacts of technology goes back many centuries. I mean, even in the Industrial Revolution, the Luddite movement was about this. In recent years, you have seen we have had challenges in the 1980s, for instance, when computers were being introduced in banks and in many other sectors. There was a threat of or fear of mass job extinctions, which didn't happen. Productivity improved. But today we are at an inflection point of a kind that the world has never seen before. Because of the massive leaps in computing power, and because of AI particularly and machine learning coming to a point where, in just recent years, you have seen computers overtake humans in playing chess, in playing Go, and there will be many things that had been thought for years that nobody could outdo humans, where it's not true anymore. So we will have to take advantage of these technologies, because ignoring it, putting our head in the sand is not going to solve the problem. At the same time, we have to look for ways and means that humans are not made redundant altogether. So there are many different ideas playing around. One is, of course, improving human capital, about which we just talked. But there are also other radical thoughts, such as having a universal basic income to provide a safety net for all humans. And there are many other ways that we have to explore what the future is going to be like. So democracies have often been accused of having two major shortcomings. One is that they are susceptible to populist pressures, and that they look at the short term rather than the long term. Whereas some autocracies, particularly if you have technocrats with longer vision, you've seen that in China in recent years, for instance, can take the long-term view, even if it doesn't have popular support. But democracies have many advantages, and one of them is course correction. In autocratic countries, if the path chosen even by educated technocrats turns out to be wrong, then it turns out to be a huge mistake which may not be correctable. Whereas in democracies, we can correct mistakes, and India is the largest democracy the world has ever seen. So this provides its own challenges, but I think it also provides its own opportunities.